The Heed the Call podcast. Wrecked their dad's friend's car and lip-synced in a parade.
Happens. Basic Tuesday. Or Thursday. Welcome to Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler. The Week 6 preview. Heyo. And Sess Dog. Sometimes I'll remember that we've been doing this for a while. And
that's right.
When you do the job for a long time, you start to understand the heartbeat of a league, right?
I would say we've got our hand on the pulse of the league, and that's been true for over a decade. But it's even truer now.
We talked about last Thursday how Week 5 is when things start to get real, and sure enough, coming out of Week 5, multiple teams just flipped out. Panic levers of different sizes flipped. We had a head coach firing, of course. So we learned on Thursday morning that an OC was booted. Multiple quarterback changes made. If there was an expression that everyone shared, a collective expression, to be like, I got to do something.
Yes. I mean, people respond to pressure differently. I know for me that my response to pressure could be positive. It also could be very negative depending on the circumstance. And, most of those things that you mentioned happened to the Jets. I mean, most of those things that you mentioned. I
Two
know
of those things, yes.
Yeah, it's the most, Titanic versions of those things happen to your team. And it seems to happen to that team a lot. But this is the time where I think these inflection points, you start to see people melt. People that looked really strong and smart in the summer start to be exposed, and I think that human process is fascinating. And that's what I love the most, just to see the meltdowns and everything starts to go very ugly.
I enjoy the human process. It allows me to feel closer as a humanoid.
Look, to pull back the curtain, experiencing enjoyment. We were 4 minutes removed from before the show. You going on a 5-minute rant about dogs on surfboards. So I'm doing the best I can.
I mean, enough. I love dogs, but
I don't doubt that.
Pause off the surfboard. Speaking of October, at Underdog, we call it Boost-tober. Did you know that, Mark?
Yes, I do, because it's part of what we do here, and I think our company is a great company.
Every single day, Underdog is dropping a different promo all month long. Check your app on a daily basis because, trust me, you do not want to miss out on these specials. Just download the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, that's us, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That is for our U.S. audience only. Without further ado, let's welcome in our regular Thursday friends. It is Jourdan Rodrigue of The Athletic. It is Michael-Shawn Dugar of The Athletic. It was Jourdan who I said before the show. She said she was a little under the weather. The Rams are on bye week. Ferris Bueller's in the news lately. Felt like a chance for Jourdan to maybe try to get out of work so she could go surfing with her dog in Venice. I don't know. I just pieced it together. Yes or no, Jourdan?
No, but Dan, based on how the pre-taping went today, I'm really actually excited to experience the journey you're about to take us on today.
What's up, Mike?
How's it going? Speaking of panic, I guess by the time this is out, my team will either be panicking or feeling good. We're recording this before they host the Niners tonight.
That's true, and of course tonight, Sess Dog and I will have the TNF recap. And yeah, it is good though, right, Mike? You don't want to say that to the people that you're connected to on the teams because you have relationships and all that, but chaos is good for your gig.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, they should either go 0-17 or 17-0. Which one doesn't really matter from my purposes. Those subscriptions and views will come.
Real question to the beat reporters: would you rather your team go 10-7 and get bounced out in the wild card round in a forgettable game, or go 2-15 full on dumpster fire and all the intrigue that naturally goes with that?
Oh, I explicitly told a player the latter one year. He asked me, this was before week 1. He was like, well, how good do you think we're going to be? And I said, I think you'll go 10-6, which I think they did. But I said, hey, man, honestly, I forget where the Super Bowl was. This was 2018, so I think Atlanta. I was like, hey, man, I could use a free trip to Atlanta. So I think you guys should either go 16-0 or just bomb. 8-8 is like the worst shit ever. I told him that legitimately. So yeah, I'm very fine admitting that. Yes, I would rather the extreme on either end than just a regular old 7-10 or 10-7.
Are you like the old school beat writers though that just kind of hope the team doesn't make the playoffs so that you're not working like an extra 3 or 4 weeks? Like you can just stop having to deal with the team?
I live to work, so.
I was going to say, Jourdan, I already know Jourdan is different. Jourdan feels her feelings so much that she couldn't stand the thought of all the people in the building suffering through a truly wretched season. So you don't want that. They're all so nice. They care. And I care about them. That whole gag.
I've never covered a title game, so I would want to check that box, and obviously the Super Bowl too, selfishly. So yeah, no, I'm cool working all the way to February, whatever. I'm cool with that. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I am cool with it if it does happen.
Respect the honesty, Jourdan. I'm right, aren't I?
I hate you so much right now.
All right. We have a lot to get to, so let's dig in. There are 4 teams on bye this week. The Chiefs, Rams, as we said, Dolphins, and Vikings. So let's dive in, as we always do, with the primetime games. We'll start with Sunday Night Football. The Cincinnati Bengals checking in at number 14 in the inaugural HTC Power Rankings. Some people said way too high for a 1-4 team. Well, maybe we believe. They go to the Meadowlands in primetime to face the Giants. A Giants team that, if things broke a little bit different, they could be with the Commanders atop the NFC East. But instead, they're 2-3, yet to win a game at home. And Mark, if we've been waiting all day for Sunday night, but also for the Cincinnati Bengals to go, it's now or never time. Now or never.
It is, and I think in our power rankings on Wednesday, I put the Bengals at like 9th or something because I really believe that their offense alone could power them down the street for the rest of the season to double-digit wins. But it has to happen
street?
Right here.
What do you mean street?
The street of the season. If it were the way they do those graphics where like all the quarterbacks.
That was a new analogy. I wasn't familiar with that one, but now I know it. Okay, good.
I cooked that up out of nowhere there. But here's the one thing I think that is a problem because the Giants played their best game on offense that I've seen in a long time last week, and it was that, but it was also the way that Seattle, and you were there, Mike, but Seattle's offensive line crumbled against that pass rush. The Giants lead the league in sacks. When they are cooking, they're very dangerous, and Amarius Mims carted off last week for the Bengals. Rookie first-round lineman Trent Brown is out, and I just worry a little bit if you're going to find a way to neutralize Joe Burrow, it's the mismatch with this defensive line versus Cincinnati's offensive line. That said, I feel like Burrow is like an MVP quarterback right now. He's just on a team with a bad record. Like, I kind of have intense trust that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to continue to dominate teams. I'll leave it there.
It's crazy how well he's playing and to the point where, so he's 5th in EPA per dropback right now. He's playing at, among consideration for that way too early MVP conversation, but it's still not lifting this team because the defense is that bad. And it's hard to even wrap your head around the discrepancy between how well Joe Burrow is playing and the gap and sort of the leaden weight that this defense is around this team's ankles. This kind of does it for me when I was looking, how could I describe this? Well, it's actually pretty simple. They've scored 33 points or more in their last 3 games, and they've only won one of those games because the defense is that bad.
Mark, he teed you up there when asking what street. Isn't the Super Bowl in New Orleans? It was obvious Bourbon Street answer.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
There. Yeah.
You're right. How did I miss that? Well, I was stuck in my own world and analogy space there, so you're right.
You're building roads, Mark.
Yeah. Well,
I was waiting for you to just say that Joe Burrow is going to lead them down Bourbon Street. I was perfect.
So close.
It's next time though. I believe
next time.
I do. I believe in you. Watching the Giants up close, that was wild. Darius Slayton looked like Randy Moss against the Seahawks secondary. That was pretty nuts. Some guy named Tyrone Tracy Jr. looked amazing. I don't want to call him some guy. He's a rook, but I really didn't know much about him before last Sunday, and all of a sudden he's just galloping through the defense. I do think that I do think the Giants are going to lose, in part because we were talking about with Joe Burrow and their offense. Like, it is pretty crazy. It was also interesting to kind of see a lot of the coverage from the Bengals side of things this week. It's a lot of people on Mark's side there was like, yeah, the defense stinks, but they got Joe Burrow. But the problem with that is, in the long term, is your margin for error when you dug a hole this deep is like really thin. And as we saw in that Ravens game, just one mistake and you're cooked. Like, that defense is so bad, they basically, on offense, have to be perfect. And that's just hard to ask of any team, even one with a quarterback playing as well as Joe is, and Jamar Chase just running wild through defenses. So I don't think they're cooked for like a 1-4 team. I have a little faith. But asking a quarterback to be perfect and asking an offense to be perfect, asking your special teams to be perfect, as well as what you do when your defense stinks. We saw how that backfire for Cincinnati too. That's just really, really tough. And it's a shame because if there's like a selfishly, I would like to see them in the playoffs team, it's the Bengals right now because they'll probably score like 40 points, in the wild card round or something like that. They're really fun right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like, I want to bang the table for the Bengals and be like, yes, they've been in this position before. We know that. They are slow starters, and then they come on strong, and this is exactly the type of game where they start to stack wins. And that's why I felt so confident last week that they were going to show up and ball out, which they did, but then they couldn't close. I think the Giants, for all their success against the Seahawks, and that surprised all of us, I feel like Cincinnati is going to be in a place now where the urgency is just going to be off the charts. Now, is it possible that the Giants are just better than we realized and playing at home, that there's a little bump there and maybe Tracy is more than a one-hit wonder and all of a sudden that once again that defensive line is just wreaking havoc? I think that's in play. So I'm torn on this game where like one part of me is like, oh yeah, Cincinnati's going to roll and they're going to kind of start getting things together. But Jourdan, there's a chance here the Giants end up really surprising people and hanging around, especially let's give Danny Dimes some flowers from where he was ahead of week one and after the disastrous week one to where he is now. He's running the offense in a professional way.
Yeah, he's like the living embodiment of that facial expression you make when you are kind of like begrudgingly impressed with somebody. That kind of facial for our YouTube listeners. I kind of look like a thumb when I do that, so maybe we don't want people to watch that. I don't know that the Bengals are going to get a bunch of pressure on him either. I mean, they're not converting even a medium-sized pressure rate into sacks. You can really run the ball against this Bengals defense as well. It's like 151 rush yards allowed per game and a 47% success rate, which means like if you put a ball in a ball carrier's hand, half the time he's going to have a successful rushing play against this Bengals defense. And so all of those things go hand in hand to creating a safe environment for the quarterback. And so I think that Danny Dimes is this kind of could be a confidence building game, particularly with the caliber that we believe the opponent should be. There's a real potential here that he, again, has a clean game in a safe I sound like, oh, be safe, in a safe environment relative to the poor caliber of defense, because I just don't think he's going to get hassled very much.
And this is the best offensive line that Daniel Jones has played behind. There's just no question about that. That's just not been the case for his entire career. And so that matches up well with the Bengals. It sounds like Malik Neighbors is on the mend. That would be a huge factor. But even without him, Jones made the most of their weapons. You mentioned Tracy, and it's just like something about this Giants team, like Dan, my old like berserker teams, where it's like they're going to win like 8 games, but they're going to screw some people's seasons up, and this would be a prime spot for that.
Yes, it could be. I mean, if they get to 3-3 and a primetime win, there's going to be a lot of juice in that building. And one last thing about Danny Dimes, because he's like one of the most glowing examples of this. The football cognoscente does not like to be wrong. And the football they have always had Jones in their sight line, in the crosshairs. And if he, after getting that, that hot run of play that got him the big contract that everybody laughed at, if he gets things going here this season again, people are going to have to once again acknowledge that maybe he's not as terrible as he's been portrayed at times.
Yeah, but then the Giants will sign him to like an even bigger contract, and that will go completely south. So
the Giants front office so badly, desperately, deeply did not want to be wrong about this guy that they went out and got the one receiver who could raise his floor to the level that makes them look more right about
all
the
right.
decision.
As long as it works, it doesn't matter. All right, let's move to Monday Night Football, and here we are. The Buffalo Bills, number 9 in the HDC Power Rankings, travel to the Meadowlands. Back-to-back primetime games in East Rutherford to face the Jets. Obviously, the Jets in a ton of turmoil. They came back from London. They fired the head coach. And again, don't forget, Aaron Rodgers never lies. Aaron Rodgers would never be dishonest with you. Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with the dismissal of the head coach that he clearly hated. Sound?
I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. And it's interesting the amount of power that people think that I have.
Oh, God.
Which I don't. But I love Robert, and it was, one of those days yesterday.
By the way, I was having a conversation with my dad last night. Good combo. Nice, tightly contested vintage Yankee playoff win. And then we pivot to Jet Talk. Nice conversation there. And we were just like piecing together the timeline. The fact that Woody Johnson acknowledged and Aaron Rodgers acknowledged that there was a phone call the night before the firing. And Aaron Rodgers said he was just asking him about his ankle. And Aaron was just saying, I'll play better, Skip, and all this stuff. That phone call obviously was Woody Johnson being like, hey, I think I'm going to fire the coach. What do you think? And Rodgers being like, yeah, okay, that's cool with me. Then the firing happens. I will not believe otherwise. And they make another move, announced that now Nathaniel Hackett, which, Jourdan, this is interesting to me because everyone has long connected Rodgers and Hackett and Rodgers protecting Hackett. He has been demoted. Todd Downing has now taken over. He was the passing game coordinator. He is now the OC or the play caller. Hackett is still the OC, but I'm not sure what his role is on this team anymore.
What would you say you do here?
But he's in the building, but no longer calling plays. Obviously, interesting wrinkle there as well.
Yeah, and two things are true here. This was a change that needed to be made, and probably more dramatic of a change has been needed in regards to Nathaniel Hackett. That's a truth that this move had to be made. It was reported that Rob Saleh was considering making the more dramatic decision revolving around Nathaniel Hackett earlier this week, right before he did get fired. It's also true that this is the type of move that you make as a front office if you are trying to make sure that Jeff Ulbrich gets a little bit of a bump from the powers that be. Hey, you're making this decision. You have the power, the autonomy to make this decision. And it appeases parts of the fan base that are concerned that Aaron Rodgers has too much power. It also moves the onus off of Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Like, I'm cool with this, and I had nothing to do with this other stuff, and look how cool with this I am, because
so cool.
It's all of those things are true at the same time. But this was something that had to happen. Of all of this mess that is happening with the Jets right now, that is, I don't know if Todd Downing is going to be the right guy for this, but moving Nathaniel Hackett, reassigning him in some way was something that had to happen.
I mean, the one thing I'd say about the Jets, it's like that, all the bubbling up and like looking at this thing from like from the way that you and your father, Dan, spoke very gravely and factually about the whole thing. I can only imagine how that conversation went down. But why, this should have been done months ago. Like, you didn't believe in this coach going into the season. There's all this chaos, and now it's like you got to go in your home stadium on Monday night, deal with the Bills on what is a short week because all these chairs on the Titanic have been shuffled around and everyone's doing new things, and there's no evidence that Todd Downing is going to come in here and save the day. To me, it just feels like utter chaos unraveling before our eyes. And while I do like to see it, I don't like to see it for your team, Dan, because it's the 18 times it's happened. But the number one thing that doesn't change is each of these Jets games I'm watching, and forget the play calls and all this stuff. You can correct this, but the offensive line is allowing Aaron Rodgers to get destroyed. There's the clip of him kind of like crawling around like a dog or a pet, during the London game, and it's like, what's to prevent that from happening week after week? And I just think Buffalo's, like, how long does Aaron Rodgers last? Like, in the middle of all this other stuff?
Yeah, that's a real question because I don't think the off-pass blocking has been terrible, but it's just that Rodgers has to pass so much because the running game has been an abomination so far. I thought you were going to say the number one thing that doesn't change with the Jets is ownership, and that's why they stay bad. That's part of it as well.
That goes without saying, but that is a major. That's like having a dictator at the top. I don't like that.
But the Bills, Mike, are. I don't think we're getting the Bills at a time where they're fearsome. And I think the Bills are highly vulnerable themselves right now. Some scary stuff came out of that game besides the concussion potentially that they used smelling salts to snap Josh Allen out of. That game, the loss to Houston, he starts 1 for 9 for 24 yards. This per PFF. He was under pressure, 15 dropbacks, and on 13 attempts under pressure, 0 completions, 2 turnover-worthy plays. And the last thing I'll say in terms of a setup here, Mike, is their wide receivers, 3 catches in that game for 76 yards. This offense seems out of sorts.
Yeah, that whole everybody eats thing is quickly dying off, which was very predictable. I think we've talked about this on here before. I do want to say that Aaron Rodgers clip was really funny because it reminds me that I generally don't believe people if they use words like categorically deny and patently false.
Yes.
Just something gets my ears perking up. I'm like, you're probably lying.
Right. Do like a archive search of all the times that was used, and then see the figures in history that have used them, like Richard Nixon and various other liars of society.
Nixon was honest. I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah, you categorically denied something. I'm like, yep, you did it. Whatever it is, it probably doesn't. It doesn't matter what the thing is. I also got a kick out of Aaron Rodgers downplaying the level of power he has. I just watched the first episode of that new Netflix doc about the NBA starting 5, and Rich Paul essentially, Rich Paul, LeBron's guy, basically does the same thing in the opening. He's like, yeah, man, everyone just thinks LeBron controls everything, and he takes his dramatic pause and he's like, that's not true. And it feels like, all right, Rich, sure, buddy. Sure, that's not true. But sorry, to spin it back to the Bills like you were talking about, Dan. Yeah, I've been concerned about this whole we don't have a wide receiver one thing. I think we talked about this in the season preview. I'm worried about that with the Packers as well. I just don't believe in not having someone, whether tight end or receiver, that dictates coverage. I just believe that's not sustainable long term. And that's not to mention injuries. Like, even if they were healthy, I wouldn't believe in it. But now you got Shakir hurt. And I don't believe in that model. I get why they were maybe like, oh, let's get rid of Diggs. Like, that's fine. But like, outside of your Jets, Dan, I think the Bills are the team who should be blowing up the Raiders. Like, yo, how's Devontae Adams' hamstring? Right. Will a flight to Buffalo make him feel better? And the answer is probably yes. They should be blowing up their phone to make that happen.
Can you imagine that world where, like, it's Monday night and somehow this happened and, like, Devontae Adams is on the Bills and not the Jets? It's like, can things get any more dark mirror for the New York Jets?
It can always get worse, I think, in life.
It can always get worse.
In all things. But hey, that's a great point that you guys make on the receivers. This is the same coaching family of defense. I'll say, actually, a positive for the Jets here is that this is the same coaching family that just totally wrangled the Bills last week, DeMeco Ryans' defense, and then Ulbrich comes from this same coaching family. Bob Saleh came from that coaching family. This would have been a great matchup for Bob Saleh as a defensive coach because teams are showing you they don't respect Buffalo's receivers. They're playing them super tight. They're forcing Josh Allen to throw to them. They're playing the Texans kind of rushed 4 a lot with a spy. So like that player's assignment was dictated on whether or not Josh Allen went on the move or not. And then they blitzed a little bit, but they covered like really sticky behind it. And so even though Josh Allen has been historically good against the blitz, doing this basically said, like, we don't give a shit about your receivers. So this is the league sort of telling the Bills and these defenses who they do have the capability of playing like this, which the Jets defense does have the capability of playing like this. This is the message that they're sending, and it certainly is a blueprint against the Bills as this offense is currently constructed.
Sauce Gardner, make a play. Okay, bud? Just make a play because your team desperately needs you to be an impact defender beyond just the coverage. And final thought, you mentioned the NBA show you're watching. I recently binged the Mr. McMahon documentary about Vince McMahon on Netflix, which is excellent.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And, there's a famous, all-time moment of backstabbery in professional wrestling called the Montreal Screwjob, where Bret Hart was told he had to drop the strap because he was going to WCW, but he didn't want to lose the belt when he was in Canada because he's a hero up there. So, but Vince, it was Survivor Series, and he wanted it to happen there. So Vince McMahon concocts this plan to basically turn the match without Bret Hart knowing and have him tap out on the sharpshooter, his move, and have Shawn Michaels get him to submit. And it was like a big drama and led to changes in professional wrestling. But the whole thing about that, after it goes down and they have the cameras there, and this is going to connect to the Jet situation, that at the end of it, to pull off the Montreal Screwjob, Vince McMahon and his cronies needed to have their story straight. And so Vince decided, I'll be the fall guy and I'll deal with Bret. And Shawn Michaels, who got the title out of that, he had to look Bret Hart in the eyes backstage and say, I had no idea this was happening. And everyone knew that Shawn Michaels knew, but he had to, for the story, say, I didn't know. I have no idea what just happened. That's Aaron Rodgers. He's Shawn Michaels. Robert Saleh is Bret Hart. And Vince McMahon is Woody Johnson. History, man. It repeats itself in different ways. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with the games we can't wait to watch. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. We all love that feeling of a fresh barbershop shave, but hate waiting weeks or even months to feel it. Well, now you don't have to wait anymore. Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. The Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code HTC for 20% off plus free shipping. Need it? You got to keep it clean, Mark. We're on camera. That's part of the gig, and you can't look a mess, and that's why the chairman steps up in a big spot for me all the time.
Well, yeah, that's news to me. I thought I could look any way I wanted to, but these are the clear products that can put me back on track, and so I trust Manscaped with my life.
The Chairman Pro comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, making it both versatile and precise. There's the skin-safe 4-blade foil for the completely clean shave, or the skin-safe stubble trimmer to keep your stubble looking sharp and polished if you're going for the George Michael look. You gotta have faith. The best part is the skin-safe technology, which helps reduce razor burn and irritation to keep your skin feeling smooth and comfortable after every shave. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve, as George Michael deserved. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code HTC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code HTC at manscaped.com. Can you name every single subscription you have? I know I can't name all of mine, and I'm not alone. I just learned that over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. That just stresses me out thinking about it. With Rocket Money, I don't have to remember every subscription or worry about forgetting any because I can see them all laid out right in front of me. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts, so you can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. You could also see your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going. Oh my God, this is great. You could also set up alerts, so if your bills increase in price, if there's unusual spending activity, or you're close to going over budget, you'll know right away. And check this out. The new goals feature automatically saves money for you, so you don't even have to think about it. Whether your goal is to pay off credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings for a rainy day, Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/HTC. That's rocketmoney.com/HTC, rocketmoney.com/HTC. Fall is here, so it's time to step up your wardrobe. Mark, I know you got a trusty pal, Levi, the big old jacket in the rotation, but have you figured out the rest of your fall attire?
Well, yeah, actually, Dan, I basically built my entire wardrobe out of True Classic apparel because True Classic clothes, they actually fit. Not too big, not too tight, shirts that accentuate your best features. I've got plenty of them with a perfect fit, snug in the arms and chest with just the right amount of room in the midsection. And they are versatile enough for everything I have going on this fall, Dan.
That's unbelievable. Premium clothes with a tailored fit at an affordable price. We're talking t-shirts, waffle hoodies, jeans, some long-sleeve Henleys. Love the Henley. Button-ups and more. And I love the activewear, too. With moisture-wicking material, it dries quickly, and it has odor control. Mark, odor control.
Yeah, well, thank God for that, Dan. I'm sure you know that True Classic comes with a 100% perfect fit guarantee. 100%. And easy returns? Yes, that means if you don't like what you order, which seems very unlikely in this situation, considering that True Classic is trusted by over 4 million customers with more than 200,000 reviews to back that up. If you don't, for some reason, you can send it back with no hassle.
Absolutely, Mark, because like I said, fall is here, so it's time to step up your game. Right now, you can unlock big savings when you bundle packs. Just go to our exclusive link at trueclassic.com/HTC to save. That's trueclassic.com/HTC. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe today.
Coming up, we're previewing Ravens at Commanders. This is the game of the week, and we're expecting a lot of points, which makes it perfect for building a pick'em entry on Underdog. Just download the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, our show, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we are back. Before we get into the games you can't wait to watch, Money Mike Dugar, we've talked about it. We need you to hit on these predictions. It's for the brand. And last week, I believe you had... What did we have for Money Mike last week, Justin?
We got 2 Money Mike tips last week. Bills -1 and Josh Allen for MVP.
Oof. Bad week.
And you know what,
Well,
Mike, I got to tell you, and it's, I love you, but it's the show, and we got to protect the show. I'm going to have to hit you with the Sting drop penalty for this.
I love Sting. Oh, man. Yeah, I had a rough week. That's all right, though, because he lived to fight another week. That's
all
okay.
right. I can't wait to see what you got this week. By the way, we're going to get into the Commanders now, because I'll start with Commanders at Ravens, which is clearly the game of the week, and certainly on Sunday. I said last week, you got to get in on this Jaden Daniels MVP pop. He was plus 3,000, Justin, am I right? Last Thursday when I said that?
Yeah.
7 days later, if you didn't listen to me, it's down to plus 1,000. So he is, especially with Allen's struggles, I feel like he has surged and is the guy that makes the most sense to go on a heater now and win that award potentially. And Jourdan, I know it's too early to talk MVP, but it's never too early to make money for our listeners.
Yeah, I think you're moving markets too, Dan. That's pretty cool. Like, let the record show you're on this. That's big Dan energy right there. We were talking about that,
I get email updates of all the odds each week, so there's no such thing as too early for MVP. I've been getting them since week 1. So yeah,
you're just giving us the wrong advice. That's all.
MVP is so tricky. I think it's narrative driven too, very similar to awards in other leagues and this one as well.
Dan is driving this narrative. He's fully in the driver's seat of this narrative, and it's moving the market. Man, this is going to be fun to watch.
One of these days, I'm going to go on a Coach of the Year rant on why I hate that award and how it's structured. But anyway. Money Mike this week. Let's start with the over in Giants and Bengals for the reasons that we all talked about. I think Kayvon Thibodeau injury, and that hurts the Giants a lot because that is their advantage up front. Losing him stinks. So let's take the over there. Let's take Josh Allen anytime interception in that Jets game. Just feels like he's due. I bet you it'll be a bad one too. Like one of those just like, that's why people didn't believe in Josh in 2018 and 2019.
Maybe Sauce is the one that comes down with that pick. And Kayvon Thibodeau, our old friend, week to week following wrist surgery. So, yeah, that is not good. All right, let's get into this excellent game, guys. So, Commanders, number 5 in the HTC Power Rankings, at Baltimore Ravens, number 4 in the HTC Power Rankings. Ravens laying 6.5 points of wood. This is the Nance Romo Wolfson joint. What else can you ask for, Sess Dog? I mean, Jaden Daniels every time you watch these games, he absolutely shreds opponents. It wasn't even, I don't think, his best game against the Browns, but still, he has like 7 different highlight reel plays. The one part of this Washington thing, though, Mark, and this is why it's going to be so interesting, this test to go to Baltimore, is the running game has been unbelievable as well. So you have this dynamo quarterback who could do it all, but they have a group of players in that backfield, like a 3-headed monster, maybe a 4-headed monster if you include Daniels, that makes them the hardest team to stop just about. In fact, Mark, number 1 in the league in rushing yards per game, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 2, the Washington Commanders. I don't think people are paying attention to that.
Well, I think because the focus is on the performance from a rookie that we really don't have a comparison for. And so it's understandable that that's been what we're looking at. But you're right. The run game, which is so dangerous, is, I think, partly the product of like, wait a minute, this quarterback has like 2 incompletions a game. So there's so much stress on defenses. And Brian Robinson, he did not practice with a knee yesterday, so we'll see what's there. But Brian Robinson's been really good. Jerry McNichols is fun to watch too. And you get enough from Austin Eckler versus where I thought we were when they signed him. Like, I'm not sure I want him being like the guy. But big play last week, and they're
using him just enough, right? He's just a part of it, which is probably where Eckler should be at this point.
Right. It's like we can be annoyed by committee backfields if you're like a fantasy head or something, but it really works here. And Daniels is a big part of it. He's run for 12 first downs. That is 4 more than Josh Allen, who's number 2, and tied with Brock Purdy. It's like, this is real. Like, this is all happening in real time. And you got a young first-year defensive coordinator for the Ravens. It's like, we're waiting for a team to slow down Daniels. And I know Cleveland did a little bit last week, but not really. And it's like, who's going to be able to do it? But in reverse, this has been a better defense than people realize too. Like, if you go, like Frankie Louvu, who showed up all the time in Carolina, is making plays. It's working with Bobby Wagner. There's a lot of veterans on this defense. So it's this clash between like this Ravens offense. It's like, we're just going to blow you up with our run game. And then Washington, that has not been stopped at all in weeks. If you go back to like that Giants game, which makes more sense now, it's like, it is the game of the week, and there really isn't a close second.
I like the way they're using Dan Quinn, king of the backwards hat, is using the linebackers, because Bobby Wagner, as good as he's been through his career, he's just getting older, and so you're pairing him with a really young, dynamic partner in Frankie Louvu, and in this way, you can deploy them almost the way you're talking about the run game, in this complementary style that's very strategic. You're not asking either one of them to go very far outside themselves. This Ravens defense is still difficult to pass against, but the Commanders defense is going to be, I think, a little bit easier to run against if you're the Baltimore Ravens, because even though they're playing better than expected, I think, on defense, and you can see them start to get better every week, they're still allowing the explosive run. They've allowed 23 explosive runs, which is the most in the NFL, and at a very high percentage. It's 20.9% explosive run rate, which is the worst in the NFL. And enter the combination of Derrick Henry and the dynamic Lamar Jackson, who's playing, having a better start in terms of like his advanced metrics than his second MVP season last year. And Derrick Henry alone has 11 runs of 10 or more yards. So when we're talking about this Commanders defense that is playing better and better every single week, you still can run on them. And it's interesting because it might be a little bit more difficult for both of these passing offenses that have been so exciting to get off the ground. This might be a really fun running game on both sides.
My fearless prediction is riding on that. We'll get to that a little later.
Jeez.
Yeah, I love this game. Dan, you mentioned what more can you ask for? I would say maybe the answer is defense. The over on this is nuts. I think it's in the low 50s. That's pretty crazy.
I love it.
I don't know if I would take that one, just because I feel like it gets to a point, and I feel like the Bengals are going to get here too, and they kind of did at the beginning of that Ravens game, is where the defensive coordinator is just like, yo, I got pride, and I'm going to get my guys to play with pride, so that thing you do well, we're just going to sell out on that. Backfired on Lou, the Bengals defensive coordinator, because he was just like, we're not going to let Derrick Henry kill us, and it was like, we got Lamar, so that doesn't matter, which could happen in this game too, where both teams are just like, we're not going to let the quarterbacks maybe legs kill us, and then it doesn't matter because they can both throw. I do like the Ravens In this, I think Lamar is playing out of his mind. Like I rewatched I forget why I couldn't watch it in real time, but the highlights in the film of the Bengals-Ravens game might be one of the best offensive games I've ever seen. Like both quarterbacks were just absolutely nuts, and both defenses were just absolutely awful. I like the Ravens defense to possibly bounce back, though. Man, to Jaden Daniels' credit, he just seems like competent defense proof. You know, Jim Schwartz actually did a decent job, I thought, early in that game. And then I remembered why the Browns stink on defense is because they can't tackle. So like when you can't tackle, it doesn't really. You're just screwed. And to slow down this Washington offense, you have to be very, very, very sound. And that's probably true of most good offenses. But like they can bomb it on you, but they're fine just dumping it down or something like that. And if you can't tackle, then you're screwed. And then if you try to come up on them, as Jaden showed on the deep ball, I think to Terry McLaurin in the first half, he's got a cannon. An accurate cannon too. So if you do want to test him deep with some one-on-one stuff, you're maybe screwed there. Yeah, I love this game. I'm glad I'm off this weekend, so I'm definitely going to get to just pile up on my couch and watch it. But I will take Lamar, reigning MVP, to have an MVP type of performance on Sunday.
I like the Ravens in this game too, but I'd love to see it be the shootout that maybe the Sharks see it as. Two things. One, I'm very happy for Terry McLaurin. He's like the orphan boy in the movie who gets adopted by the kind millionaires on Christmas morning. Like, it's like, finally, here's a special quarterback you could play with and show everyone that you are potentially a true number one receiver. And that's good. And last point, Marc Sessler, you said that there's no comparison point for the rookie quarterback of the Commanders. Here's a quote from Jaden Daniels on Wednesday per ESPN's John Keim. I don't like when people try to compare me to Lamar. We're two different players. I want to be known as Jaden Daniels and not the next such and such, which is fair. It's just fair. And maybe I just want to say it's okay to have Jaden mania, Mark, but
yeah,
I'm not saying you, everyone,
right?
Because it's fun.
But me also.
Let's not sleep on Lamar Jackson, who is also very much an MVP candidate. Again, he doesn't have narrative in his favor because he's already won 2. I don't think the voters like to just keep giving the same guy the MVP if they don't have to, but he's absolutely played at that level again this year.
I would just say 2 quick points, because there was the moment where you had Lamar on the bench, head down after the mistake, and you thought, this is just we're going back to this thing with Lamar where he doesn't close out seasons the way he wants, and it didn't happen. It's like, this is a different season, a different version of Lamar Jackson, and a lot of it has to do with what he's telling us each week and where his mind is. And it's like, don't Marlon Humphrey, I've said this before, but don't try to videotape me on the airplane. We're not doing that this time around. And the McLaurin thing, like, I know you sort of compared him to like a male orphan Annie, I guess that would be, but like he on that Monday night game where everyone started to like the Daniels became part of like public consciousness. The game started with them saying, like, you know, McLaurin's been a really good teammate because he's in an offense where he's not being featured. But by the end of the game, he had huge, big plays, and everything changed. And it's like Washington is changing before our eyes, and McLaurin is like the benefit. So he is sort of a male orphan Annie, Dan.
Yeah, I nailed it.
Yeah,
I nailed it. I nailed the analogy. Yeah.
Right. It goes without saying. So I highlighted that, but I didn't need to. But I did.
By the way, you mentioned, Jourdan, that Dan Quinn is the king of the backwards hat. That's in the like completely secure, guileless, middle-aged dad category. I mean, that's important. Like, if I had to pick who wore the backwards hat best in my lifetime, I would say it was Ken Griffey Jr. in 1993. But if we're talking Seattle, Mike, but if we're talking like middle-aged dad who's not insecure about it at all, it's Quinn.
Yeah, it's just truly impressive stuff. You also just want to have a beer with that guy, frankly. I mean, he just is like probably the top of the hierarchy of would have a beer with that guy rankings, which we should roll out in the off season probably.
Sounds like a Patreon episode. All right, Jourdan, what is the game you cannot wait to watch?
I cannot wait to watch the number 10 heed the call power ranked Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the number 21 New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Adam Amin is back. Great call by Benetti this last weekend. Greg Olsen and Pam Oliver on the call as well. Derek Carr's oblique injury means the Saints are going to start Spencer Rattler, a rookie quarterback who Justin Graver has met in person 2 times, who after a strong preseason drew so much buzz from that fan base that it didn't quiet back down until Carr and the Saints offense blew the doors off of week 1. We are a long way away from that offense. That same group lost 3 in a row and averaged 16.3 points per game in the losses after averaging 45.5 points per game in the first 2 wins. So that Rattler buzz might keep growing. The Bucs, on a vastly more serious note, the Bucs relocated their operations earlier this week to New Orleans because of Hurricane Milton's landfall late Wednesday. It's a really scary situation. Hoping everybody stays safe in that region. That said, the NFC South games such as this one are super important to people, to the point where a local weatherman tried to paint a picture of this enormously concerning situation by framing it through football, and I think we have the sound for that.
Mike, we definitely enjoyed the little halftime show that Mother Nature gave us inside Milton, but now we got the second half, and, I got to remind everyone that you might still be in the eye right now. There's a lot more to go. I think back to, the Atlanta Falcons first half Super Bowl winner. We know what happened to the second half when the Patriots came back to life. So do not sleep on the second half of Milton.
He just wants to be a sports reporter. Don't put him on the weather
it's
beat.
Relatable. Everyone knows what he means by it. By the way, at that Super Bowl, Mark, we were set up way up in the rafters right next to some luxury suites, and it was Ludacris's luxury suite. And in the first half, he had like all his people around him, and it's just like a full-on party. And then I could not stop looking over at him. Nobody else was looking at him, but I had clocked him earlier, and I was like, what's Ludacris? Obviously, like Atlanta to the bone. And like by the end of the game, he was sitting by himself in those first 3 rows of seats in those luxury suites. He was alone, looking like his dog had just been shot in front of him. So
there was he was a microcosm of, we were on the Falcons side of the stadium, and I give that fan base credit. They were going absolutely out of their minds, and it just got quieter and quieter and quieter. And that is the classic game where like we had our post game piece, and at halftime I had written like a 700 page or 700 word
Big
item
mistake.
on the Patriots the and how it let down the team and everything in the offense. It's like with each passing minute of the second half, like I was erasing one line of the feature and like in another line and another, and I had no story by the end, and I was just ready to jump out of the bleachers.
Tough one. Toughie for you, Mark. That's who I felt for the most.
That was the central, that was the biggest problem anyone faced in that stadium that day.
Certainly. The Bucs are fun to watch. They're every week, even there's been some disastrous outliers. I think somehow subconsciously Baker Mayfield every once in a while will have just like a truly atrocious game just to help everyone feel more alive, because then it's going to be better the next week. But they're fun. They're frisky. They're starting to get some of their injured players back. And I think this is, first of all, these games are always really interesting just because the NFC South games have been super fun so far this year. But at the same time, this is not the Saints that started the season. And this is not the Saints offense that started the season. They are the offensive lineman injuries that they've been dealing with. Now you're going to see them put together a completely different plan, a new plan with a rookie quarterback who, to be fair, they do really, really like. And there was even whispers, like I mentioned in the preseason, that Spencer Rattler might eventually take over for a healthy Derek Carr until Derek Carr and the offense, again, like I said, silenced that with how they came out of the gate. This is not the same Saints offense. The defense still looks solid, but this is not the same Saints offense. And like I said, the Bucs, they're starting to get some injured players back on defense, and the players who have been available for them, particularly in the middle and the back half of the field, have been making splash plays week over week. So they're making the most with what they've got, and Baker Mayfield on a whole, minus a couple of outliers, is playing outstanding football.
I think the one killer matchup, you've got Vita Vea, who is playing out of his mind against the interior Saints line that is down to like its third center at this point. I think that could literally neutralize this.
But and then on the other side of the defense, the Bucs can't cover anybody. At least they couldn't last Thursday. This is per PFF, Mike. 37 of 58 attempts were deemed open targets. The Falcons had 14 plays, 14 of 15 plus yards in the game. And so, I don't know, to the point where after I watched the game, I was like, we put them in top 10 in the power rankings. I know the Bucs are not a complete team to me.
No, their defense is super like Jekyll and Hyde. One day, excuse
feast
me,
or famine.
One day they're like making Jalen Hurts look unplayable, and then they're making Kirk Cousins look like a Hall of Famer. And that was only in the span of a few days, I think. That was pretty nuts. Also, speaking of matchups, this one has like perhaps the best, most compelling receiver cornerback matchup maybe ever. And Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore. Like Marshawn Lattimore is like prime Darrelle Revis every time he plays Mike Evans.
Easy. Oh, okay.
Every time he plays Mike Evans, specifically against Mike. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're just absolute. I know they're nuts. I know they are. It's pretty crazy. Like I'm gonna I want that. I want as many camera angles on those two. I hope Spencer Rattler makes it out of here. Okay, like I don't want Vita Vea landing on him and killing him. Because I don't believe in that Saints O-line at all. Pretty banged up. But yeah, that matchup, man, Lattimore and Mike Evans is great. I think they're both downplaying it. I read a quote from Mike this week, but who cares? I'll play it up. I'm not
play it up.
Yeah,
so you're doing the Lord's work.
I've got the stats too, if you guys are interested in that.
Let's hear
it. Per Next Gen. So they have, since Marshawn Lattimore entered the league in 2017, he and Mike Evans have faced each other in 12 games between regular season and playoff. In those games, Marshawn Lattimore lined up against Mike Evans on 265 of his 432 routes. So over 60%. That's kind of the qualification of you're isolated on that guy. That's sort of what the qualification is. And he's allowed just 19 catches for 302 yards and 2 touchdowns to Mike Evans on the 29 targets faced as the nearest defender, forced a tight window on 10 of the 29 targets. And Buccaneers quarterbacks have combined, because they've had some turnovers here, 27 of 44 passes for 426 yards, a touchdown, and 6 interceptions when targeting Mike Evans versus all other Saints defenders in coverage. So that is compelling stuff right there.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch that game. Moving on to Money Mike Dugar. Oh, my God. Tom Brady, they pay this guy $350 million to be a Cowboys cheerleader. All right, Mike, take it.
Yeah, the Brady thing is weird. He's calling. I'll start with the game. I'll call it the game. I can't wait to watch. Is the Lions at the Cowboys? Yes, Brady is calling this one. Very strange. I was reading a story from my homie Tashawn Reed. I guess they're going to discuss Brady's ownership stuff at the next some league meetings somewhere that I'm not invited to. But I'm like, yo, how is he going to own a team and call games? It's just so strange. I don't really know how that'll work,
And just for the audience, when I say who does a great job on this show, Mike's version is my homie, but it's the same thing. It's like that means that guy does a great job, so it counts, Mark, and it's more praise for colleagues, which is okay because the profession is a noble one. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
My shout out to the homie, Tashawn. I was like, I was reading that. I'm like, yo, how does he's not allowed to go in the production meetings if he owns a team? I'm like, yo, that's part of the. Anyway, it's so strange. But I can't wait to watch this game. I believe this is a rematch of the number 70 is eligible thing from last year with the Lions.
Oh, right. Dan Skipper. Was that
yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's a very O-lineman name.
Big Dan energy.
But yes, that's very much an O-lineman name. Yeah, that was a really great game. I expect this one to be as well. I like how Dak is playing. I didn't watch the Sunday night game live, but I watched the film of it. Man, Dak was balling. I can see why. I was reading after, like, oh, man, Dak kind of had to pull one out of his ass because he wasn't playing well. I was like, I don't know, man. He was making some throws in there. I seen guys that wouldn't attempt, let alone complete. I just watched Jared Goff and the Lions live in Week 4 out in Detroit, and Goff looked like a Hall of Famer. He looked like Kirk looked against the Bucs. So I think we're going to get really good quarterback play, which is always makes matchups compelling. This is a great 1B, I think, to that Washington versus Baltimore game. I think this one will be just as good. I also love when the Lions play a team like this because the Lions in their roster construction is almost like a big FU to teams that invest in the quarterback and then ask the quarterback to kind of be their everything. Like the Cowboys are doing. You watch Cowboys offense, you're just like, hey, Dak, save us. And he's either, okay, I can save you, or no, I can't. Whereas the Lions have constructed this team, and they're like, yo, Goff, just get the ball to the great guys. That's all you got to do. We'll give you a good O-line. We'll call great plays. We'll throw you a bone and throw you a touchdown every once in a while. But for the most part, you just have to do very little. Just don't screw up, make a few great throws, which you can do, and then you're good. Great contrast in team building that we've seen. The Lions are really good at that. They've built their roster around the quarterback as well as pretty much anyone I can think of outside of maybe the Eagles. So yeah, I love this matchup for the quarterbacks, the contrast there. I know that Dak is probably going to put up some bonkers numbers in a loss here because he's been doing that this year. For some reason, the Cowboys also can't win at home, I don't think. Super odd. I also wish, it doesn't sound like Michael Parsons will play. I wish he was, because if so, we'd get like really good edge rusher compliment on both sides of this, because Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute monster. Can't wait to watch him play. I like the Lions in this one in what could be, I'm anticipating, a shootout in Dallas.
I totally see a shootout. The Cowboys have been wretched at home so far this year, wretched obviously in January. So there's kind of a bit of that energy in the air, a team that's been great in their building before this little slump they're in. Hey, Gravy, you had a great stat before the bye about Hutchinson, the number 2 overall pick a few years back. What do you got?
Yeah, before the bye, Hutchinson was absolutely dominating in like basically every category when it comes to pressures, pass rush win rate, sacks, all these things. But now the Lions obviously were off last week, and Hutchinson was off last week. So you think, oh, okay, he was leading in all those stats. No, he's still leading in all those stats. He leads all players in total pressures with 40 by 11 over the next closest players, 2 players, Jonathan Grenard. And who's the other one? Jonathan Grenard and Zach Allen are tied for second there. But they are 11 pressures behind Hutchinson. Despite Hutchinson just having a week off, the gap from Hutchinson to the number 2 guys in pressures is the same as the gap between those number 2 guys and the number 25 pressure leader. He is on a completely different level from anyone else in the league right now.
Meanwhile, Jaguars fans are just like wiping their brow that Trayvon Walker's coming off his best game of his career. So at least it doesn't look that bad, at least this week.
I actually don't like this. If you're the Cowboys, I don't like this matchup. Their defense is depleted with injuries. The Lions have showed that they're still like a walking, talking death machine on offense. They have really come, I think, far from what we saw, a little bit of lack of cohesiveness at the start of the season, and they showed it with a couple of it, including a primetime matchup, that they can still get the job done on offense. And I just don't think Dallas can stop anybody, particularly all of the different ways that this Lions team can attack you. And plus, Frank Ragnow, this is insane. Speaking of insane superhuman performances or things with players, he's back as a full participant this week at practice. And if you get him back, that makes a significant difference as well in the identity of this offense.
Yeah, big-time center Ragnow is. And by the way, Dan Campbell, who, like I've said with Sean McVay sometimes, when I hear Sean McVay talk now, it feels like he's exited the realm of being like a real person, and now I kind of see him as an actor portraying Sean McVay, using the traits that one would most associate with that person when he was an actual human. I'm starting to get that Dan Campbell vibe as well. It's kind of a compliment because Belichick, you could say the same thing too. Once you kind of take that next jump, you kind of become a little bit iconic. Anyway, here's Dan Campbell talking about how he knew Frank Ragnow, who tore his pec and is now playing in week 6, we think, proved to him that he was healthy enough to come back.
I know this. I walked, this was last week, actually almost right before Seattle, and I walked down there to go talk to our trainer, and somebody punches me against the wall, and I'm not even paying attention because I'm looking at our trainer, and I keep walking, and then I get punched again, and I realize it's Frank, and he's trying to show me that his pec is great. All right, so that's his way of telling me, look how strong I am. It's good. It's healed.
I love it. The credit there to 97.1 The Ticket, Costa and Jansen.
More Big Dan energy.
Hey, it's all over the place today. All right, let's move to the final game we cannot wait to watch. It's the Cess Dog. And he is, he's not giving up that dream of the Cardinals. He's back.
Well, to be fair, I dove into our shared document a little later than some, and so I'm not pitching this as the greatest game on the planet, but I do like the Arizona Cardinals a lot for reasons that I think others may not believe in them as much as I do.
The doc goes out on Wednesday, and Wednesday is a sacred day for the Cess Dog. It's It's a little bit of a respite in the middle of the week, and Justin, he's got that energy to him. Levi's coming out; he's prowling Hollywood. We had a call meeting with some Underdog execs, and Mark was the only one that wasn't on camera because he was, quote unquote, walking the dogs in Hollywood. And it was just like, nobody ask any questions. Mark's doing Mark stuff. It's Wednesday.
Well, first of all, to suggest that I'm prowling around Hollywood is not the word I'd ask you to use there. But I literally was walking someone's dog, and that is factual. And it was a friend of a friend. I did a favor for them. And also, like, this whole rule now that you go on these Zoom calls and you have to have like this like ornate studio behind you with like perfect lighting. It's like sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. But I wasn't even at my place. So
all right. So here's Zoom etiquette. I find it's a play by ear. If I click in and everyone else's screens are up, I'm gonna throw mine up. Okay. And when Sessdog keeps his dark, it's a bit of a power move. I feel like. It's like you're not gonna see me, but like so the boss can just like stare at an MS initial or whatever. It's like that's a move, and that's a play, and you made it.
Yeah, like I think the actual boss that was on the call was also not on screen, and
He's
so
the boss.
I was showing him like
it was the boss and you.
Yeah, so it's like I am not mimicking, but I am following your lead here. And
the game within the game unfolds. And Mark,
it was Game of Thrones in the Zoom call with Sessler.
And I got to tell you, I have really loved getting to know you guys better through the work that we do in this shared Google document. And I actually have started writing a note each week. So I take the rundown that Justin gives us, I copy paste it over into a new document, and I write my notes in each section. And I have categories for which games everyone's taking. And I've started writing under Mark, small parentheses, check back in the morning.
Well, it was
Mark needs his Wednesday.
I think it was like 3 a.m. at least. But I don't want to steal the. I want to not just jump in there first and take the. Shall I discuss this game though? The Cardinals
at
Green Bay.
Packers.
We're gonna smoke your weed. Okay, Justin. I want to just here's something I wrote about this game because it's how I feel about the Cardinals specifically. They're a bit of a pet team. But here we go. Have you ever been inside the mind of a clown? What does the clown believe? What motivates the clown? Are the clown's intentions pure? We don't know the answer to that, but we do know that clowns are diverse. Different types, different needs. Some are there to make children laugh. Some are there to kidnap children. And they always get away with it, because why would a clown kidnap a child? The police say to themselves with their little coffees and donuts in their hands. Some clowns are sad inside. The face they put on is a ruse, and we all buy it. We want to believe in the clown, but not the type of clown who looks past the Arizona Cardinals. Chalk it up as a W, says the clown. Then the clown is mauled, run through by James Conner. The clown is crumpled on the grass as Kyler Murray races to the house with his finger up. The clown is not prepared for Drew Petzing, using multiple tight ends and massive heavy sets at a 52.6 usage last week. Cardinals 1, Clown 0. Let's just hope the hyped-up Packers aren't in some Green Bay makeup studio at this hour, applying clown makeup to their faces too. Only a clown and his or her clown friends look past the Cardinals of Arizona.
I like it. You've disturbed Mike, I could tell. I hate clowns. So the idea of running through clowns and destroying a clown, and clowns are absolutely known for taking children. I mean, they're not trustworthy. True. So you make me almost want to root for the Cardinals this week because I'm connecting all these dots now based on your monologue.
I want to say, Justin, I don't know if you have that image that we could put up that I sent you. When you go and watch like the All 22, this is what they did a lot last week against the Niners. We are looking at a line. There's pistol. You're right, but there are 5 linemen and like multiple tight ends. Look at how much like human mass is up there, and that's the play that Kyler Murray broke through and ran and lifted his finger like 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and just said, "I know I've got this thing." And they really took Bosa out of the game, the Niners' best pass rusher. And I kind of just think the creativity and the way that they're using, protecting Kyler Murray, but opening up the ground game, makes them the reason I talk about, because I think whenever we go back to the game where they lashed the Cowboys a year ago, and they're not a perfect team, they're incomplete, but they do this every couple of weeks where someone seems caught off guard by what they're able to do, and they use pure power and might. And this happened without Marvin Harrison being a big factor last week. And so it's not just like other teams where it's this 1 or 2 stars. Like, they found a way to really overpower San Francisco and demoralize them. And that's why I think I give them a chance against Green Bay. I give them a good chance every week. And maybe I'm overrating them, but that's how I feel about them.
I think personally, I think you are. Teams that are super inconsistent annoy me, and I think that's how I would describe the Arizona Cardinals. So, lest we forget, before Jordan Mason coughs that ball up and basically gifts a win to the Cardinals last week, and I'm not taking away credit. Cardinals deserve a lot of credit for what they did, but they got very fortunate the way that game ended. They got the doors blown off the previous week, 42-14. So before we start putting clown makeup on anybody who doubts the Cardinals, this has not been a pristine unit week after week this season.
I agree. It's just I'm saying that I do overrate them, but I have a fetish for them.
But when the Cardinals are in full flight, nailed it, Jourdan. They are a thing to behold and fun to watch. So I get why, and I know you have a bit of a Cardinals fetish, Mark. I get why these things are all connecting. I just can't. It's hard for me to trust them yet.
Mark, I share your excitement about what's possible with this group, because when they show you when they reach their potential, it is some of the most exciting schematic diversity and also just ideas. And Kyler can play at ultimately a super high level. I also want to point out that getting Trey McBride back in the lineup is a big reason why they actually can meet that potential. He is quietly one of the absolute glue guys on this offense that not just unlocks a lot of their passing game, the consistency in their passing game, also in their run game, also in the various personnel sets that they can use. You can't just throw any guy in there to run the same type of personnel, because it's different calls, it's a different language, different assignments, those types of things. And also when Kyler Murray is a factor in the run game, he had 83 yards in the touchdown last week. Obviously one of those was the explosive, but lining up the way that they can and I know I screech about the pistol all the time, but when they can do that, when he actually shows that he's willing to carry the ball and run as an element of the run game and not just as a scrambling quarterback or someone who's throwing on the move or out of structure, it adds this dimension where are you going to go if you're a linebacker or a safety? Who are you going to attack? Are you going to come down and fit the run against the actual running back? Okay, well, enter these 3 tight ends who are just going to kick your ass all up and down the field. And then okay, are you going to try to spy on Kyler? All right, well, he's going to put the ball somewhere else. Oh, okay. Can you catch Kyler? I mean, I'm not going to bring up the top speed, but he hit a very high speed.
Yes, he hit a certain number that shall not be stated.
Not going to say it. And I just think that's why I get so excited and why they disappoint me so deeply. I mean, I'm not mad. I was just disappointed the other week, but they're so exciting with what they're capable of doing that it drives you freaking nuts when they don't actually do the thing. But having Trey McBride back, I think, unlocks a lot more of the thing that we know they're capable of doing.
Mark, how about this? If the Cardinals go to Lambeau a week after going to San Francisco and they get another W, I'll do that game recap on Sunday in a clown mask.
Oh, boy.
Well, the stakes are high. I need to see this occur. So
anything on the Packers before we move? Mike?
Yeah. Well, 2 things. One, I like the Packers in this game. The second thing is, I don't trust the Cardinals defense much. Like you mentioned, Dan, the Niners kind of gave that one away to them. It was also funky because they lost their kicker, which there's only a certain few instances where that can change the math, and one of them happened where they went for it, I believe, on 4th and 23 in a very makeable field goal range, but makeable for a kicker, not a punter, which is all they had. Kind of a funky game there. I like the Packers to score. I like the Packers to be able to move the ball against them. The second thing, the only place I've ever got fired from was a company called Clowns. Fun fact.
What did they do? Business? What was the?
It's I guess officially it was Clowns Unlimited LLC or something, but they were the company that essentially, if you order a big inflatable thing for your kids to jump around in, or you're having something at a park or a birthday party, you order a mechanical bull for a graduation party type thing. That was the company here in Seattle. It's called Clowns Unlimited. I worked there summer going into my junior year of college or senior year. And I ended up getting fired because of a weird technicality. But yeah, that's all I could think about when Mark was talking.
Very open-ended.
The way they did the scheduling was funky. They changed it to where...
Did you kidnap a child?
I did not kidnap a child. Let me get that out there quick. I did not, but I did get fired. That's the only time I've ever been fired from a job. A place called Clowns.
One of the things that annoyed me the most about the bounce house era of fatherhood, which, Mike, you're heading toward, so get ready.
It's a rough stretch.
You have to pay a shit ton of money to get these inflatables blown up in the local park, right? Or if you have enough space in your yard or whatever. I mean, we're talking $5. I mean, we're talking like big money for a 4-hour rental of a bounce house that the kids are going to be interested in for about 34 minutes. And then after the guys come and set it up and take down the goddamn thing. And then you got to tip those guys too. You could be a bad guy and look the other way. But so now I'm peeling off 20s for each of the guys that are pulling out the stakes and deflating the motherfucker. And all of a sudden I'm doing the math at the end of the night. And, when you factor in everything, it's like, did I just drop $600 on an inflatable? Like, put the clown mask on me because I just got had in a big spot. So, Mike, I'm glad you're not associated with that company.
Nope, I'm not. They fired me. They did pay well, though, to your point. We also got paid for when we were en route to the places, too. So if they were far away, that was great. 30-minute ride, one way. Yep, cash. Pay me by the hour. But yeah.
What a company. What a high-quality company.
Speaking of Five Rocks, Xavier McKinney, the Packers safety, becomes the first player in history to have an interception in his first 5 starts with a new team. He's playing really well.
Pretty good.
Like how nailed it.
Nice. Nailed it. Absolutely.
But you can run on this Packers defense, and you absolutely can. They're having some concerns about their front as well in terms of the pressure to sack rate and also just like the overall direction of the group right now. Good defense though, good DBs, and it's interesting. I just don't know that you're going to be able to pass the ball a lot, or that you're going to want to pass the ball a lot against the Packers if you're the Cardinals, particularly with some of the issues Marvin Harrison's having, and then the receivers. Romeo Doubs is going to be back in action. Sounds like this week, a bit of a funky situation last week. So this offense is, with Jordan Love getting healthier by the week, is slowly getting back on track for Green Bay.
All right, let's take a break, and when we return, we jump into the gravy boat.
Are you playing on Underdog yet? Maybe you don't love the idea of building a pick'em entry. That's okay, because Underdog also has streaks. Enter for as little as $1, get a nice streak going, 1 pick at a time, and you can win as much as 1,000 times your entry. Or if you built up a streak and don't want to risk it anymore, you can cash out your streak anytime. So download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we're back. Mark, I was thinking about it during that extended commercial break. And let's make this real interesting, Mark. Hit the clown music again. All right. I said that if the Cardinals go to Lambeau and win, I will wear a clown mask. I will throw that back at you. If the Packers win, you will wear the clown mask when we do the game on Sunday. So clown mask either way. And I'm even on Amazon, I've picked out the mask.
Oh, God.
One of us will wear the mask on Sunday, depending on the outcome. Yay or nay? Take the challenge. You love your Cardinals.
It's all the show comes first. I don't actually own a clown mask, so like you, I'm going to have to go. I do live on Hollywood Boulevard, and there are like multiple human dress-up shops, or costume shops, they would call it. So
human dress-up shops, it's what they do on the holiday they call Halloween, October 31st.
Well, I'm just saying it'd be very convenient for me I can just go a couple blocks up.
Well, I'm going to buy this mask right now, and I'm going to expense it to Underdog. And it's delivered by tomorrow, October 11th. So I'm going to click it. You can do whatever you want, but this can't be like when we did a 3-month bit with Wes back in the day around the Super Bowl about will Wes eat his softball pants? And then we got to the Super Bowl city, and Wes was like, I didn't bring the pants. He's like, Wes, kill him. Like, we need you to have a clown mask.
I have like a really detailed scheduler. I'll put buy clown mask on this and for tomorrow or today.
All right, good. Let's do it. Let's head into the boat.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Pervert. All right, here we go. Let's hit the rest of the schedule.
First game in London, Jaguars at Bears. Trevor Lawrence is coming off of his best game of the season matching up now against Caleb Williams, coming off the best game of his career. The Jaguars defense is not very good. In fact, they have the worst EPA per pass allowed in the NFL. And Caleb Williams, in back-to-back weeks, has played the Colts, the 9th worst EPA per pass, and the Panthers, the 3rd worst EPA per pass, and torched both of them. Now he goes against the worst EPA per pass team in the Jags. We might see Caleb Williams have the best game of his career for the 3rd straight week.
I love it. I love it, Mark. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he's a USC guy and they're the local team of college record here, and he seems like a good, interesting guy. I want Caleb Williams to be successful, and seeing him ball out and start to feel like, oh, this guy's having fun at this level, I feel like the Jags are a good setup for this to continue.
Yeah, like there was the preseason game where we saw what Caleb Williams was capable of out of structure, and then it kind of went away. A lot of it went away, but I think that we're seeing some of that now on a regular basis. It's really encouraging. It's encouraging to me that the Shane Waldron part of this, for at least like the last 6 quarters, has been a much more, and you're right, Justin mentioned the opponents, and I get that, but still, it's like, I don't really care. Like, I want to see this work. They went to Shane Waldron and said, like, we need to coach us up. We need some more stress here, like some more, like, actual, let's do this as a group. And that works, and I think that's a really good sign for the Bears. And this is the kind of game where it's a reverse island game to me, because half the country will be asleep when it starts. But like, it is a good chance for people that haven't had a good close look at Caleb Williams to see the fact that like he's not Jaden Daniels in this season, but there's a real reason watching his tape to believe like this is going to work for the Bears. I think it's going to take time, but they're kind of growing as an offense the last couple of weeks. Very encouraging.
I love that we heard about how they got better. I love that it was very public. I love that the players were out there saying,
I agree.
It's not personal with this guy, with Shane Waldron, who is a very nice man. Like, it's just, we just need better ideas. We need harder coaching. We need, and the Bears press corps as well. I mean, I went back and watched Shane Waldron's press conference from that week where his job was sort of in question right before they started turning things around. And it's really hard to watch with how uncomfortable he clearly was, but it worked. And we got to see the process sort of evolve and change in live action and live time, and it's benefiting Caleb Williams. I also love when a special teams unit, which the Bears have an outstanding one, becomes an actual part of the defense because of how well they're playing and because of how well Torrey Taylor is able to pin offenses and flip the field. They're winning. They can win games now with a little bit better of an offense, but they also can win because they're winning the margins with those crucial plays, such as the splash plays they've been able to make in their passing defense, and then also with the way that their special teams unit is now an extension of that defense. I think the Bears could get really fun down the stretch if they keep improving like this.
And shout out to the Jaguars, who did get off the schneid last week. And there's a lot of positive stuff to build off in that win. Trayvon Walker, as I mentioned, 7 pressures and 3 sacks, including the clincher to get the dub last week against Indy. And, what they have there at wide receiver, there's something cooking there now with Brian Thomas Jr., who's, Malik Neighbors had the, obviously, everyone's attention the first few weeks, but it's time to start paying attention to the rookie in Jacksonville. 11 for 122 and a touchdown, just explosive. And you put him with Christian Kirk, and that's a really nice one too. So, like we said, the Jags they need their stars to step up and dig them out of this hole, and you saw that last week, and we'll see if it continues. Nice matchup here. Next up, Justin.
Next up, Texans at Patriots. So the Patriots were hesitant to play rookie Drake May before they knew really if the offensive line could hold up in pass protection, right? Well, now that they know the offensive line cannot hold up in pass protection, Jacoby Brissett has been pressured on a league-leading 50% of his dropbacks. Now they've decided, okay, we'll throw the rookie basically to the Wolves. We'll give him his first career start against the Texans defense that just made Josh Allen, of all people, look like, Nathan Peterman. But the 4-1 Texans somehow have a negative point differential. They have the 3rd worst point differential in their own division, only better than the Jags. I think they have a good chance to improve that number in Foxborough this weekend.
Money Mike, I think a good way to explain why the Patriots did what they did is what we talked about at the top of the show. Hamina. I got to do something. And that's what a first-year head coach is doing. So we'll see if Drake May can handle this.
Yeah, I have I don't have time to dive into it now, but I'm like firmly in the group of people who believes you should play your rookie quarterback. Even if the circumstances are good, or bad, just because if you take a guy that high, which I believe Drake was pick 3, Like, your team's bad already, right? But you try to build it the best way you can to help him succeed. But the way you find out what that looks like is by playing him. Is giving him first team reps with the O-line, the center, the receivers, all that stuff. And you collect that information, you find out if your guy stinks or if he's that dude, and you proceed from there. So I like that Drake is getting to play. I actually like when guys get the hard matchups, I think Tua, maybe when he got named the starter, I think his first game might have been against like the Rams defense or something like that, or one of his early starts. Like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Like, I want to see how you handle yourself in those situations. Almost like training with like weights on your, legs while you run. Make it hard for yourself so that in the future it feels a little easier. That said, I think the Texans smoke them. But yeah, I'm excited actually to see what Drake May looks like. I was really high on him coming out. I think he'll be good when the situation around him improves. But yeah, I actually like this move by Jourdan Mayo. Play your guy and see what you got in him.
I just don't think you develop good habits by playing in absolute chaos. I mean, it's like almost a 50% pressure rate. So it's like almost half the time the quarterback drops back to pass, you've got people in your face. And I hate it for both quarterbacks. Let me be clear. I think the bigger fault here is obviously not repairing that environment around him enough. I don't think you need to feel out what it's like to play with some of these linemen, because they're probably not going to be there in the future because they have to overhaul certain elements of that group. And I just don't think you build good habits by playing in chaos. I agree that you need to play your players, and if it's a quarterback that you draft that high, obviously, and then obviously you're probably getting pressure because you're maybe not selling tickets. You need people in the stands. Like you're probably getting pressure from higher up than even the head coach to get this guy on the field, to show some hope, to show that they're building for the future. It's a really positive move in terms of all of the optics of it. I just don't think if you're Drake May and you're still developing, and the story on him was he still needs to develop as a quarterback. I don't think that you're getting put in a situation where you can cleanly do that, or even half cleanly do that, instead of like playing to just avoid catastrophe versus playing to build good habits and good reps. Well,
I think it's going to be a good test of the Patriots coaching staff, because while I can agree with you, Mike, that just throw them into the fire and you grow. This is why we brought you. This is your destiny to be this position player in the NFL. There's also like the weather-worn situation where like the quarterback's confidence breaks down because he's in constant duress. And like I just worry about that with rookies. And in this specific case, like they're going to have to keep his head on straight. I think the one thing that Houston did against Josh Allen and seems to do weekly with DeMeco Ryans is like create confusion where the rush is coming from. And like we mentioned, there's sticky coverage against the Bills a week ago. So it's going to be an incredible test right out of the gate, mentally, physically, kind of the matchup and situation. Joe Mixon returned to practice on Thursday. That's a big deal. That offense was not the same without him. So I don't know what version we get of him, but that's a big deal. Ramondre Stevenson did not practice for the Patriots. That's a big deal. But without Nico Collins, I thought this offense, because C.J. Stroud started 10 for 10 a week ago, their offense looked real different without Nico Collins in there, and he's gone. And so I think they're going to have to grow out of that situation too, Dan.
Nico Collins went from day to day to week to the injured reserve for that hamstring. So not a great situation. And now this is where it's good to have depth. They have Stephon Diggs. They have Tank Dell. You're going to need those guys to take on a bigger role. Let's get back into that gravy. Come on, Jourdan.
All right. Browns at Eagles.
It's warm.
It's nice in here. I mean, I don't think it's creepy. I think it's
you
nice.
Creep.
Not at all. Not even the least.
Browns at Eagles. Hey, Cleveland Browns. Cut Deshaun Watson. Go be the worst team without him. Win strange games. Win back the stadium, the fans, the heartbeat, the city, hamburger outlets, dive bars, green parks, distant vistas, home fronts, unintelligible newborns, the nearly dead, daughters about to be married, elves, animals, wanderers, those of the forest, the sea, the ocean, the queen of all human things. They will come back. Start anew, like a garden from springtime. Do what is right. Will you? This is the biggest point spread of the week, with the Eagles favored by 9.
Slow down. First of all, shout out to Wednesdays with Marc Sessler, because that was a dispatch sent from his social media carrier. Love it, Mark. I love it. And I'll say this. You watch the tape, Mark. I don't think that dude wants to be on the field. I mean, we all want him off the field. I don't even think Deshaun Watson wants to be on the field. We didn't play this a couple weeks ago, but as I was watching their most recent meltdown, Mark, on offense in week 5, it reminded me of Deshaun Watson talking about, making plays with his legs. Let's play this back.
I'm not trying. If I don't have to run, I'm not going to run. So I'm not trying to take any hits.
How more designed runs?
Because I'm not a running quarterback in a sense. I can make things happen, but I'm not trying to run. I'm not a running back. That's not my specialties. They signed me to throw the ball, make decisions, and be a quarterback, not a runner.
And I think about that, and I think about every time this pass rush is coming in on him where his eyes are looking straight down. It's like, I think and there's so many things you can get on about Watson in terms of decision making in his life and accountability and all that stuff. But he looks to me like you're watching a guy that had a $238 million guaranteed contract that was been put through the ringer, rightly so, in the public opinion, and is just like, get me out of here as soon as possible. He might welcome that benching. Let's put it that way. The way he plays football now.
Yeah, I mean, where that tweet came from me was from deep within. The reason I started to fall for football and the Browns way back when was no matter whether the team is good or bad, you want to believe in the players. And there's at this point we're beyond the tipping point with Watson. Everyone sees it. Everyone's calling for the same thing. But it's not. It is the person. And I know that with the thing with Stefanski last week was a confusion over 12 men on the field. Amari Cooper saw it too. But it was the body language, and it was just the general demeanor of watching. They're at that place where there's clips of how receivers are acting downfield when the ball is 10 yards over their head. It's just ultra frustration. These are pro players not getting to use their skills. I read this on The Athletic that the 596 rated quarterback in total QB EPA is Deshaun Watson. And that goes back to when True Media first started charting that in 2007. 596 out of 596 quarterbacks. He is being paid like he's a king from another planet. He doesn't seem to want to be here. I think we're running out of things to say. Organizationally, you can see it. They're shipwrecked. Stefanski has no power. I don't know where this goes because it's getting darker. And 3 of their next 4 games are at home in front of some of the best football fans ever. And I think there's still room and runway for this to get even worse.
At a certain point, Jourdan, I just start to lose respect for Stefanski to make the move. I don't care no matter what, you got to vouch for your locker room. At what point do you have to do something? And I feel like we've reached that point. And if you're Philadelphia, they're laying 9 points here, and I don't think that's nearly enough. I feel like this is set up to be an absolute mind blast. And Mark, I think a couple weeks ago you had fearlessly predicted the Browns benching Watson. I was going to predict it here, but it was too similar, so I didn't. I feel like we might be heading towards a pivot point for the Browns coming off a potentially ugly road loss.
I think you're right. They're too fearful to do it, though.
Yeah, you get the sense that Kevin Stefanski is fully helpless in this situation, which is not a good look. You kind of remind you of some of the things you'd see Rob Saleh, the power to make certain decisions is not in my hands. It's hard to watch because this is a coach who has enough of a resume to the illogical thing would be to assume that he is not understanding and looking at this is bad football happening. His offense is bad football. And you see that and you acknowledge that and you recognize that as a head coach. And that's what some of the helplessness sort of stems from to me is there's no way he doesn't recognize that. There's no way he doesn't see how bad this football is.
But Jourdan, at some point, maybe you got to show some backbone. And we talked about this with Connor a couple weeks ago. Even if the organization doesn't want you to do it, do it. Challenge the organization. And if they fire you because you bench the guy everybody hates, you're not going to lose that public opinion battle. It's I don't want to keep relitigating this, but it's I almost feel like Stefanski's getting let off the hook a little bit. It's what could Kevin do? It's Kevin's the coach. Kevin can go out there and say it, and he hasn't. So it either means he is afraid of the power dynamic and it doesn't have the power, or he doesn't see what we all see, which is equally disturbing if that's the case.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's the latter. I think I loved that discussion that you guys had a couple weeks ago with Connor because that, first of all, that would be totally unprecedented and also seemingly very out of this particular coach's personality. He's never been an emotional guy. He's never showed some of those things on the sideline that we're used to seeing from like a Brian Daboll, for example, or, he's just kind of always been that guy, Kevin Stefanski, and he's just kind of been calm and quiet and really hasn't made a lot of noise. And so I don't think you lose, to your point, Dan, I don't think you lose any sort of optics battle or even a battle for future opportunities if you do take matters into your own hands. But there has to be the only explanation for this right now, because again, it's just flat out plain bad football, is that there are internal dynamics that we don't see, that we don't know, that are truly creating one of the most obvious lame duck coaching situations that we've seen, not limited to the structure of that contract. And I also push back at some of the arguments where it's like, oh, you can't field a competent or even NFL level roster with, that amount of dead money that you would incur if you do move on from this quarterback. And that might be the case, but that's your fault. You did that. So you might have to, and that might be the best situation for everybody moving forward, including potentially, the coaching staff, the front office. Like this, it's about to be ass saving time in Cleveland, frankly. And so you're going to start to see the pieces start moving around and maybe some things start to bubble up in that regard.
And one last thing, not to belabor the point any further, but there's been a lot of like Browns fans saying like, well, no quarterback could succeed here. And this is Stefanski's offense is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Look, this is the same Kevin Stefanski who I've seen a lot of those kind of comments on Twitter. And this is the same coach who led the Browns to the playoffs last year with 5 different starting quarterbacks. And now in one coach of the year, and now it's like, oh, it's his fault because he hasn't designed.
Well, it boils down to the person too. It's the person. It's not that the next quarterback is going to come in and be Joe Flacco 2.0. It's replacing the person and the whole personal situation.
We just saw it. You just saw it with Flacco. He can do it if he has somebody capable. All right, let's move on back into the boat.
All right, next game, Colts at Titans. Titans coming off their bye, hoping that week of rest will help turn their season around. Anthony Richardson for the Colts likely going to return. His health will be worth monitoring the rest of this week, but it seems like he'll be back. This will be the first meeting between Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, quarterbacks drafted last year to be franchise leaders for their team. And these are the two quarterbacks who lead the league in interceptions with 6 apiece. There is one other quarterback who has 6 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes. Hey, pretty good company for Levis and Richardson to be with. So we could be in for a wild, fun-filled turnover fest of a game. Quick note, Michael Pittman Jr. is expected to miss a few weeks with a back injury, so he'll be out here. And a crazy betting note on this one. I want to throw this to Money Mike. This line opened with Indy as 1.5-point favorites. On Wednesday morning, it was still Indy -1. By Wednesday afternoon, the line had moved all the way to Titans by 2.5. That's a lot of movement for like a few hour span. I'm curious your take on that.
Did that move because of Anthony Richardson's?
I don't think so. I think it was betting. I mean, maybe, but that seems like a lot for a quarterback who's not that bad. I don't know. That's a lot of movement.
That seems like the Flacco movement inspired, because I like AR. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. I also think that Joe Flacco at 57 years old gives them a better chance to win games right now, man. He can still spin it. I know they didn't win last week, but he was spinning. I don't have his stats in front of me, but I caught that game too on the rewatch.
He was even moving well. I mean, he's just like, he's playing with so much confidence. And I was thinking, Mike, like, now that the coaching staff has seen it, just like Stefanski saw it last year in Cleveland, like, can you really like file that away? Because we all understand Richardson and how much they have invested in him.
Can the fans file away?
Yeah, like at what point does Richardson feel heat? Because he was struggling, let's face it, before he got hurt. He's got to start playing well, because now you have a proven backup that's a fan favorite that balled out when he got the chance.
Well, I think the difference is that Anthony Richardson is such an exciting player. When he puts things together, it's fireworks. It's beautiful football. It's these throws that are impossible. So when he does put things together, I think that's the difference. With the previous situation, you're like, shit.
Yeah, but you know what I need? Like, Mike, we need like some 12-yard completions. We need to like do some of the easy stuff and mix that in, and I think that's something that's been missing so far this year.
Flacco had like a 20-yard run in that game, I believe, for a first down. Like,
pretty awesome.
He was moving. I think Mark actually unofficially pitched a new segment there with his game he couldn't wait to watch, admitting that he kind of picked it so late. I think it was, I'm not pitching this as the best game of the week. It could potentially be a new segment where we just talk about a game that just could potentially stink. And I believe if we do get that going, Indy at Tennessee might qualify. This is a NBA League Pass game right here. Very few things compelling. Even though I like Anthony Richardson, just watching him sail the ball over Alec Pierce's head just doesn't move me on this Sunday, especially with no Michael Pittman Jr. I like Michael Pittman, but without him, this is really awful.
And Mason Rudolph didn't do what Joe Flacco did, but the head coach in Tennessee's already annoyed with Levis. His rope has to be very short coming off the bye. Let's see what happens. Back into the boat.
Well, not to correct you, but Callahan said Will Levis will start the entire season no matter what. He even admitted that the goal of the year is to find out if Will Levis is the guy. Okay,
not to correct you, proceeds to correct you.
Wait, are you saying that a head coach has it never happened that a head coach says one thing and then something else happens?
I agree. And we're very early into the Callahan tenure, but so far he's actually been incredibly open and honest, and I'm kind of shocked by it. He outright admitted.
Just stick a pin in it, Justin, until the next towering dumbass interception by your glory boy quarterback, and let's see if Brian Bo Callahan is strong as oak with his word about this guy's gonna start every game. That's all
Dan,
I'm saying.
Good attempt there, Dan, to move on to the next game without Justin going. If additional comments on the Titans, that was never going to happen.
Yes, listen to my Titans podcast for more. Okay, Chargers.
Yes. Wait, name the. All right, go ahead. If you're going to do the plug, really get it out there.
Music City Audible. All right, Chargers at Broncos. The Broncos come into this game riding the highs of a 3-game winning streak on the backs of an elite defense and solid improving play from rookie quarterback Bo Nix. Nix has 3 touchdowns and no interceptions during the win streak. But the Chargers have a great defense. They are tied for they are tied for 5th in EPA per play allowed. They were off last week, so we've all kind of forgotten that they exist. This could be a low-scoring slugfest between division rivals.
Yeah, the Chargers have become like Steelers West now, which is not my favorite thing, especially when you have a quarterback like Herbert who has potential to be a fun guy to watch, but is not right now, or at least hasn't so far. Let's listen to some sound. We've been tracking this. Sean Payton called Bo Nix a Ferris Bueller type. Here's Payton when he was asked if he likes Bo Nix firing back at him on the sideline like that.
Absolutely. All good. It's the heat of the moment. It's the game. It's competitive. He's fiery. And it's, look, we're in the business of passion. We're looking for passion. And we're looking for people that have passion for the game, not other things. And I think that it's so important to him. I loved his response, and we're on to the next play, and just, it's nothing.
And here's Bo Nix commenting on Sean Payton and his style of coaching and who he is.
Pardon my French, but Payton is so tight that if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass, in 2 weeks you'd have a diamond.
Okay.
He's got moxie, this kid.
It's interesting, though, because I actually do believe Sean Payton on this one, that he does like it. I also think that he believes he created this situation to get more out of the quarterback. I
believe that.
I hear both of those things in his voice and in his comments. That's a quintessential Sean Payton right there.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Number 20 in the HTC Power Rankings, the Broncos. I had them higher. I think I even had them in the twilight zone at 13 when I made my ranks, just because I've watched them closely the last 2 weeks in real time, and I just have been so impressed by the defense, and then the quarterback starting, some things clicking. It's like, okay, this is intriguing. I'm interested now in watching these Broncos games, and the Chargers are a nice little test here. They could really, Mark, start to build some momentum.
I agree with the idea that this could be a low-scoring slugfest. The Broncos allowed the least amount of points in the league. The Chargers, the second least. It just feels kind of like it's going to be a kind of a fight to the finish on who survives. I really think that it matters a lot. The Chargers went into their bye. It feels like they hadn't played in 2 months, but Rashawn Slater is back. Joe Alt is back. Derwin James is back. But really specifically from the tackle side of things, because we're not getting the Justin Herbert of old, and we see that. They have a very specific thing they want to do. I like offenses like this where you've got a lot of nickel defenses and defenses built with lighter, faster players. And it's like, we're going to tell you exactly what we're going to do. We're going to come right at you, and we're just going to impose our will. It's sort of like it's Steelers West, but it's also maybe Ravens West if it works the way they want it to. That said, like, you were going up against a great defense, and this is a game I would have, in years past, deeply avoided until later in the week. It's spicy this time around.
35.5 over under on this one, Mike.
This is a Big Ten noon kickoff over under. That is super yucky. I'd probably take the under in that. I might even tease that though. If I was going to really throw some bread on that. This game does feature though a guy who, if I was going to throw some money on an awards person early, Patrick Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year.
Hey, I said that on Sunday night. I think he, to me, is the number one guy in the clubhouse right now.
I think Fred Warner, Aiden Hutchinson, and Patrick Surtain are all like rotating with they're making just amazing plays. Fred's playing out of his mind. He really is. And then Patrick's also playing out of his mind. And then Justin mentioned the numbers for Aiden Hutchinson. Those three would be my guys right now. Patrick is probably the only thing that makes this game super exciting for me. I love great cornerback play. That dude is nails, even though he picked off my boy Gardner Minshew and got him benched on Sunday. Very sad about that. Yes. I think some college in Mississippi.
No. Where'd Gardner go to school?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Although, yeah, Gardner, proud Coug. Antonio Pierce, days might be numbered there. That might be the wrong call over there to bench my boy.
It's been a little bit shaky. And by the way, you mentioned Revis earlier. Darrelle Revis, he did not win the Defensive Player of the Year in 2009, which is maybe one of the greatest seasons ever by a cornerback. So they don't like to give that award to CBs because the stats are different. They just give it to the guy that had 19 sacks usually. But open your eyes and see how Surtain has really been just the linchpin of everything Denver does. Speaking of Gardner Minshew and speaking of Steelers West, Pittsburgh at Las Vegas, Gravy Bowl.
Yes, another QB change. Aiden O'Connell will start for the Raiders after Gardner Minshew was benched mid-game last week. And at quarterback for the Steelers, Russell Wilson is fully participating in practice. But he is still working with the twos. For now, Mike Tomlin sort of just refused to engage in anything. He called it all a hypothetical conversation about the quarterback position. So for now, we're going to assume that the Raiders are the only team changing starters for this game.
Yeah, translation, Justin Fields was kind of shitty last week, but I need him to be shitty 2 weeks in a row for me to bench him. That's how I see it. Here's Antonio Pierce on why he switched to Aiden O'Connell as the starter.
It was a quarterback battle early on, and at this point I think it's best to go with Aiden going forward.
In terms of the quarterback decision, do you envision this being kind of a constant battle throughout the year, or do you plan on making the switch for the good?
No, I don't plan on making switches at any time. Just when it's time to make a switch, we make a switch.
I mean, Mike, he could not wait to bench Gardner Minshew. He couldn't wait. And once he got the chance, it was curtain. So good luck with AOC.
Yeah, I just don't watch the Raiders and see that like the quarterback is like the source of their issues, like I do with some other teams. Like we were talking about the Browns earlier. That the quarterback is playing really bad there. Quarterback's playing bad in Tennessee. Quarterback's not playing super well in Jacksonville. Like there's other situations where it's more obvious. I think Indianapolis as well. I just think the Raiders just stink. The whole thing. The defense is okay. They're kind of banged up. Just lost Christian Wilkins. That stinks. When I watch the Raiders, I'm like, dog, you guys can't run the ball at all. Like it's just not a good setup for any quarterback. Aiden's probably going to struggle. The Browns remind me of the same thing. They can't run the ball either. Teams that just, your O-line stinks, can't run the ball. They're lacking weapons because Devontae Adams is waiting on his flight confirmation to New York, either to the Jets or the Bills. Like his hamstring is just hurt until that hits his phone. Yeah, the Raiders stink. I think this was a bad move by Antonio Pierce. Honestly, not even just because I'm the same school as Gardner Minshew. Just like the O-line is bad, and they don't run, so they ask the quarterback to bail them out a little bit, kind of what I was talking about what the Cowboys do with Dak. And Gardner is just the more mobile of the two. He's better at improvisation. That's kind of why he won the job as well. It wasn't because of ball security or anything. My unbiased opinion, too, is that Antonio Pierce, man, he's just scrambling over there, which is what we've seen a lot of Raiders coaches do in this century.
And, Mark, Pierce, to me, his temperament maybe I wonder about for the job because I think what Gardner got is when you have a chance to take control of that game last week in a divisional game, and the interception he threw that was a total shift, an emotional like H-bomb dropped, goes from scoring a touchdown to a pick six the other way on a bad pass. Like, that's stuck in Pierce's craw. And I get the feeling that he does act emotionally, and that was kind of behind the benching. And we'll see if it works. It's just, I agree with Mike that I don't think the Raiders are a very good team, but I didn't look at this team and say the quarterback needs to change to get things on the right track, and yet that's where they went.
No, they rolled out the carpet for this specific dilemma that they're in. I mean, we all saw this coming from the earliest parts of the offseason. And so if you know it's going to happen, I think part of the test as a head coach in your first full season is to weather these storms from a public relations angle too, and how you talk about your quarterbacks and your own players. And I thought initially, like, going from Josh McDaniels to Pierce would solve a lot of this. It seemed like that was happening when he took over. That's one of the reasons he got the job. I don't like the way he's dealt with the situation. And I think we're going to flip-flop back and forth between quarterbacks. Your star wide receiver has not been won over. You're not a very good football team. And I think it matters to your offensive line and to a player like Brock Bowers, who is, I think, the best tight end in the league right now, to have these quarterback switches back and forth. It creates just a lot of issues. And so an already bad team doesn't need to pile instability on top of weakness. And that's what's happening.
All right. One more hot, soggy dip into the gravy bowl.
Falcons at Panthers. The Falcons have claimed... What?
Did you swallow some gravy?
Yeah. Falcons at Panthers. The Falcons have claimed all three of their victories this season in dramatic, game-ending fashion, game-winning drives. But if they need to do that to beat the Panthers, we may have to drop the Falcons from the 11th spot in the HTC Power Rankings. Divisional matchups can be weird, though. So this game could be more interesting than we think. A 6-point spread here for Atlanta, but just because it's the NFC South, who knows?
Jourdan?
Yeah, I think that when we're talking, so I'm useless at sports betting conversation, but over under, I do know. I think that this is like, the entire line or over. I'm failing at this description. I think that the Falcons will be responsible for the points in this game. Is what I was trying to say.
You got there.
I think this defense in Carolina, it's a disaster. It was not built to be successful in the first place with the personnel decisions that they made. This is a defense that was like kind of quietly old at a lot of key or premier positions, including outside linebacker and defensive backfield. And it also just, missing Derek Brown has really hurt them. And they are not a good unit from top to bottom. Shaq Thompson now out. That's a huge loss too. I just think Atlanta has the capability and the potential to put up a crap load of points against this defense. And I also think it bears remembering that, Ejiro Evero, the Panthers defensive coordinator, and I don't know how you can coach your way. Again, I brought it up a couple shows ago, like, you're signing 3 corners off the waiver wire in September. Like, that's how bad this was going to be immediately. But Ejiro Evero, there were whispers in the offseason when Dave Canales got hired, especially because the two were not necessarily paired. Like, Dave Canales didn't necessarily pick the guy, and the ownership wanted to keep the defensive coach intact. He's one of the brightest young defensive coordinators in the league, despite what this season has done and looked like. And he could not get out of the contract. And there were other teams that were sniffing around that were going to try to hire him out from under that contract, and they couldn't do it. And so I think that situation bears monitoring, because if this defense continues like this, you are potentially looking at Dave Canales trying to make his own decision for that position. I just don't think anyone can coach their way out of this defense right now.
Tough situation. All right, Justin, you see that? There's like that little ladder on the side of the gravy boat. You climb out and then towel off. Let's take a break. We'll be back with our fearless predictions, and then we say goodbye.
October is here, or as we call it on Underdog, Boostober. That's right, every single day Underdog is dropping a different promo all month long. Check your app on a daily basis, because trust me, you do not want to miss out on these specials. If you haven't started playing on Underdog yet, Boostober is the perfect month to get started. Just download the Underdog app or head to the website underdogfantasy.com, sign up with the promo HTC, that's our show, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code HTC to claim your new customer special or a free pick for our American customers only.
All right. We close the show as we always do by looking back at our fearless predictions in week 5 and looking ahead to week 6. Let's see how we did last week. Just one of the worst beats you could have. I nailed it. Joe Burrow was going to seize the moment, throw for over 300 yards and 3+ touchdowns. He throws for nearly 405, a career high. But I had the Bengals winning, and they gagged away that game in the fourth quarter of 10 points with 7 minutes to go. The cowardice in overtime, taking the ball out of the great quarterback's hands and paying for it. The football god said, hell no. 2-3 on the season. Dugar, there will be a game with as many or more defensive/special teams TDs as offensive touchdowns. Oh, you fall to 2-3. Sorry, Mike.
That was tough. There was a bazillion defensive and special teams touchdowns this week. Like the morning games or what? Oh my God, it was just nuts, and I just couldn't get it. I almost got it, damn near in the game that I covered. I think that game was -1.
Makes it hurt even more, doesn't it, Mike? When it's the game that you got the eyeballs on.
Yeah, that was a weird game too. I know we're not just here to recap that, but the way that ended, field goal block, touchdown. Yeah, it was. I think there were like 2 games where there was only just one more offensive touchdown than there were defensive or special teams touchdowns, which, I mean, considering the specificity of my prediction, is pretty nuts.
Mike's like in the Seahawks press box screaming in joy as the Giants are running that last special teams touchdown in.
No cheering from the press box. Life sucks and then you die. Gravedigger, it lists 2 games will be decided by 21 or more points. Oh, got it. Which games?
I think there were actually 3. Washington, Chicago were in the early, so I stopped paying attention after that. But I do think one of the late games also hit it.
Nicely done, buddy. That pulls you to 2-3 and into first place tie with me and Mike. Jourdan, we have an asterisk. I don't know what that's about. 2 skill players attempt TD passes, 1 completed. What's happening here?
Well,
all right, let's litigate this. All right, go ahead.
This is tough for me to do, because I'm not one to beg. However, Travis Kelce, a skill player, handing the ball off for a touchdown. I'm hopeful that the jury decides to allow that as a qualification and finally get me on the board. I'm also sick.
Nicely done. What was the wording exactly? Pull it up again, Justin. To attempt touchdown. No, absolutely not,
No.
Jourdan.
Sorry.
What do you think this is?
Please.
Is this charity?
No, because look
This
at
is. I am literally asking for charity right
No.
now. I am making no qualms about that.
You have a
And
bye week. Like you
let's
already had
include-
Ma'am,
I'll
you
ask-
are 0-5.
I'll ask the jury, because let's also include the fact that if I get on the board, Mark becomes the only person not to be on the board.
See, now you're playing to the jury's sympathies, and I like that.
No.
But we can't. I'm sorry, Jourdan.
Did 2 guys even attempt touchdown passes?
We're being generous
1.
about the Mitchell.
Who was the
Mitchell
one?
Justin texted us about it earlier this week.
AD Mitchell
We're
attempted
being generous.
a pass.
We're
but
being
it was-
generous about the direction of
No,
the pass.
the AD Mitchell touch, that was like a throwback, I believe, right?
It was
Like
at
to
the
I
line
know.
of
I'm
scrimmage.
begging for
Jourdan.
charity, guys. I know.
0-5.
I'm begging
You know
for
what?
charity.
I don't often say this, but I'm disappointed that you would even stoop to this level with your begging bowl. No, you're 0-5, and so is Marc Sessler, who, four clear underdogs win outright. And here's the bad news. Mark, non-competitive, unserious the first several weeks. He tries to get a layup, and he can't get that either. So, I think Mark's in it right now. He's searching.
There
First
were
of all-
three clear underdogs won outright. You headed into Monday night, Kansas City, New Orleans, needing the Saints to pull off.
Well, I
that
knew
win.
it was. I knew it was over. And you don't put your fortunes on the back of Derek Carr. I saw that you misspelled my name intentionally. I'm sure that was a dueling banjos job by Justin and Dan, and I accept it.
Does it get you? Let me tell you the truth. I had nothing to do with it. Does that make
Nonsense.
you more or less angry?
It certainly. I will find Justin between now and Sunday. I will discover where he is. I'll leave it there.
Oh, dang, Mark. I thought you hit that. Were the Dolphins not favored? The Dolphins were favored in their game?
I looked at the closing lines, and by closing line,
okay.
the Dolphins were, and also he said clear underdogs. I think the Dolphins were like a half point underdog at the time of our recording, which is like basically a pick 'em.
Can't give it. All right,
And
let's.
the Texans were like +1, I think, too. That was a very close one, I believe.
Yeah, they were.
I'm glad that Justin's deciding when the spread should be observed for this contest. How did that happen?
That line might have moved too, or maybe they were one of the underdogs that won. I can't remember now.
Can we move on? All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Week 6 fearless predictions. I'll start. This is the reason it's fearless is because 35 years of being a fan. But the Bisaccia bump is a real thing. Interim coaches, teams tend to play really hard and really well when an interim coach takes over. So this is shout out to Ulrich, the new coach of the Jets, or at least the interim coach. I think they're going to play well on Monday night. Also, obviously, they have a new play caller. So there's all sorts of chaos around the Jets, but I think the chaos will lead to a really good Aaron Rodgers game, and the Jets defense continuing to flummox Josh Allen in search mode himself right now. Jets win by at least a touchdown.
Ballsy. I like it.
All right, Mark, you.
Okay, let's see. What do I have here? Well, I think the chaos continues around the league, and that another coordinator is fired by the start of next Thursday's preview show. We lose another coordinator to the ocean.
All
Otherwise,
right.
I'm in my personal Watergate, and I'm 0-6. So.
And I want to give Mark a little pop. Like Hackett, for instance, counts. If a guy gets demoted, we'll count it. Doesn't need to be dismissed out of the building, lose their responsibilities.
What if it's like somebody takes play calling away, but they're still technically the offensive coordinator or whatever? Does that count?
Right. Well, that's Hackett.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's demoted.
Yeah. We'll give you that.
Sure.
We'll give you that.
Okay.
All right, Jourdan.
Yeah. So I think that Devontae Adams is going to be traded before our next taping. That's my fearless prediction. We are still pretty far out from the trade deadline, and Devontae has made it clear he also is like wanting to go, which has probably tanked some of the value. You've been hearing this reporting about the Raiders want more and they'd be open to a second rounder, but it doesn't sound like they're being offered things like that right now. But I just don't think that Tom Telesco is going to be able to wait this out any longer. And I think that Devontae Adams will be on the move before our next taping.
Okay. Mike?
All right. I'm
trying to think if the mirror needs to come out on that one.
Yeah.
Do you need to be more specific about where he's going? Mark, what do you think about this one?
I'm kind of surprised it didn't happen this week. Jourdan is seeking victory.
Well, that's what tells me. That's what tells me they're not getting what they want, and that they were trying to have a stare down with him, essentially. Because if it didn't happen right when they said it was gonna, right when all of this is coming out publicly, then I think that now they're kind of in like a face-off situation, and a face-off with other teams as well, who are trying to squeeze them and continue to devalue the trade. So that's why I think that this becomes fearless, because if it didn't already happen, then they're trying to squeeze the entire situation.
Okay. And the Raiders are an unpredictable outfit, always have been. Mike, close it out.
All right, I'm going with some points this weekend being scored in a specific way. I got 10 quarterback rushing touchdowns happening in week 6. Previous high this year was 8 in week 1.
I like that.
I love it. Love it. All right.
That's a good
I love
one.
it. I love Thursday
Mike,
Thursdays.
I need to pick your brain, Mike, on how to do these.
I mean, I've only got 2. I think you guys are all in good shape, though. I'm counting on Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson to go nuts for my prediction this week.
All right, Justin, I apologize. I once again have forgotten to include you. Your fearless prediction before we sign off.
My fearless prediction is that at least one of these replacement quarterbacks, which could be like Spencer Rattler, Drake May, or Aiden O'Connell, will get a win this week.
I love that one.
Good.
Great one, Justin, because I don't have a prayer for any of those teams, but that's a good one. I like that.
Thanks.
And I apologize, Justin.
It's okay, Dan. It's been a long show, almost 2 hours.
What are you trying to say?
Just like a lot of habit. Like I get it. You're trying to get out of here, trying to wrap things up. So I get it. I'm giving you grace. I get it. You know?
Look at you two, sort of just working through the ups and downs of life together.
Yes, that's what
I
we do.
love it.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you to Jourdan and Mike. Every game that we just recapped, you will be able to hear or every game that we just previewed, we will recap on Sunday, so make sure you come back for that. And yes, Thursday Night Football recap coming up later tonight. And tomorrow morning on the Patreon, we will draft these games to see who watches what come Sunday. Patreon.com/heed the call. All right, thank you to everybody. Till next time, heed the call.